This life is a miracle, not in the way fireworks dazzle or storms shake the earth, but in the quiet way a single breath enters your body without asking for permission. In the subtle whisper of your heartbeat, in the rising and falling of your chest, in the way the stars remain faithful to the night sky. You are living, moving, being, and that is nothing less than a miracle. Not someday, not later, now. This moment, unnoticed by most, is steeped in divinity. You did not come here to chase miracles. You came to remember that you are one. There is a great forgetting that happens the moment we arrive. We are born as pure being, unafraid to cry, to need, to love without condition. But slowly, the world teaches us another language, the language of separation. We are taught that we are not whole unless we earn it, that we are not lovable unless we prove it, that we are not safe unless we control everything around us. And so we forget. We forget the sacredness of simply being. But the soul, your soul, never forgets. It watches patiently as you run and strive and shape yourself into an acceptable version for a world that itself is aching for truth. It waits through the noise, through the striving, through the exhaustion of trying to become enough in a world that cannot define your worth. And then one day, without thunder or ceremony, you pause. And in that pause, you feel something. Something ancient, something eternal. The breath behind the breath, the light behind your eyes. The stillness that has been here all along. And that, beloved, is the beginning of awakening. It is the sacred return, not to a place, not to a role, but to your essence. You are not a body with a soul. You are a soul wearing a body for a time. And that body, that story, that name, they are not who you are. They are garments, temporary expressions. You are the silent presence underneath. There is no becoming. There is only remembering. Remembering that you are already whole, already enough, already divine. The mind will resist this. It will say, but I've failed, but I'm not ready, but I've been wounded. And I say to you, those wounds are sacred, not because they define you, but because they've opened you. The cracks in your heart are not flaws. They are doorways through which the light enters. The Tao does not try to shine. It simply is. And so it illuminates all things. You are not here to force your way through life. You are here to align with what is already flowing, already guiding, already perfect in its unfolding. When you let go of striving, you fall into grace. When you release the illusion of control, you begin to move with the current of life rather than against it. And life, this life is not random. It is intelligent. It is sacred. It is miraculous. But you must learn to see again, not with your eyes, but with your soul. You must become still enough to feel the miracle pulsing in the silence, in the breath, in the ordinary. When the mind becomes quiet and the heart becomes open, what you will discover is not a new self, but the timeless self you've been all along. You are not your thoughts. You are the space in which those thoughts rise and fall. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness that holds them with compassion. You are not your past. You are the presence that has witnessed every moment of it, untouched and whole. And this presence is freedom. Freedom is not found in rearranging the outer world until it pleases the ego. Freedom is the recognition that nothing needs to change for peace to be here now, because peace was never missing. It was only drowned out by the noise of not enough. But the soul does not shout, it whispers. And in its whisper is the whole universe. Your worth is not up for debate. You were deemed worthy the moment you were breathed into existence. You were not placed here to earn love, you are love. You were not sent here to find God, you are an extension of God, exploring itself in form. And that is why your life is a miracle, because it is not separate from the divine. It is the divine. You are the wave and the ocean, the flame and the fire, the moment and eternity. Let that truth settle in your bones. Let it echo in your breath. Let it remind you that you need not perform to be accepted. You need only be real. Real with your pain, real with your joy, real with your journey. The ego says, I must be more. The soul says, I already am. And the soul is always right. There is nothing more healing than presence. When you return to the present moment without judgment, without needing it to be different, you touch the eternal. You realize that this moment is not lacking anything. It is whole, and so are you. Healing is not fixing. It is allowing, allowing yourself to feel, to break, to be held by something larger than your story, to soften instead of harden, to forgive instead of cling, to release the illusion that you were ever alone, because you never were. The same presence that grows trees from seeds and turns seasons without effort is the presence that breathes you. You are not apart from it. You are it. And when you know this, not just with your mind, but with your being, you will begin to live differently. You will speak more gently. You will walk more slowly. You will notice beauty in places you once overlooked. You will begin to see life not as a task to be managed, but as a sacred ceremony unfolding breath by breath. You will understand that the miracle was never what you were chasing. It was the one doing the chasing. You already whole, already holy, already enough. This life is a miracle, not because of what might happen tomorrow, but because you are here now, breathing, feeling, loving, existing. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be present, and presence is perfection. Let this be the day you remember what your soul has always known. You are not a seeker. You are the sought. Let this be the breath where striving ends and surrender begins. Let this be the moment where you finally allow yourself to be what you already are, the miracle. And as you walk through this world, carry that knowing with you like a light that cannot be dimmed. Let it guide you not to impress, but to express, not to win, but to awaken. There are no accidents. There is only love calling you home in every experience. And now, beloved, you are ready to listen. You are ready to remember. This life is a miracle, and so are you. You did not come into this world to conform to its noise, but to remember your own stillness. Beneath every ambition you've ever held, beneath every title, every plan, every map you've tried to follow, there is a deep, unshakable truth pulsing in your chest. It is the truth that you are not separate from life, but a living embodiment of its intelligence. You are not here to master the world. You are here to reunite with the part of you that was never broken. When a river flows to the ocean, it does not hurry. It does not apologize for its curves, its eddies, its quiet moments. It simply moves with the grace of what is. And you too are allowed to be this honest. You are allowed to move at the pace of soul, not the speed of culture. You are allowed to slow down without explanation, to change direction without justification, to sit in silence without shame. For there is wisdom in the quiet places, wisdom that speaks when the world grows silent. It is not loud. It does not clamor for your attention. It rests beneath the surface, waiting only for your willingness to stop searching long enough to hear. And when you do, you will know your purpose has never been about becoming someone. It has always been about unbecoming everything that is not truly you. You were not sent here to accumulate identities. You are not placed on this earth to wear the mask of perfection. You are not meant to shrink yourself to fit the mold of others' expectations. You are here to be the full, unedited expression of the divine force that breathes stars into existence and gives shape to the unseen. Every cell in your body is a cathedral. Every moment of awareness is a return to grace. And in your stillest knowing, you already understand this. You felt it in those moments when time seems to dissolve, when the past and future no longer tug at your soul, and all that remains is this, the inhale, the exhale, the sacred presence of being. That is where life touches you, not in the noise, but in the space between. We've been taught to measure our worth by outcomes, by achievements, by how well we can convince the world that we belong. But the soul does not operate in measurements. It exists beyond the binary of success and failure. It does not care if you are applauded. It cares that you are aligned, that you are rooted in your truth, that you are willing to live not from fear, but from the quiet courage of authenticity. When you begin to live from this sacred space, the external world no longer holds power over your peace. Circumstances may rise and fall. Seasons may shift. Relationships may transform. But you remain the stillness beneath the movement. You become like the mountain untouched by the storm, grounded in your being. This is the miracle. Not that life is always gentle, but that you can remain gentle within it. Not that all pain disappears, but that love can rise in the midst of it. Not that you avoid the darkness, but that you remember your light within it. And when you truly see yourself through the eyes of the divine, you will stop bargaining with your worth. You will stop waiting for permission to be who you are. You will stop looking to others for the validation only your soul can provide. Because the sacred does not beg to be noticed. It simply is. And so are you. You are not the turbulence. You are the sky. You are not the chapter. You are the blank page upon which all stories are written. You are not the echo of a broken past. You are the song that keeps singing, even after the world forgets the lyrics. Let this remembrance settle into your bones. Let it whisper through your breath. Let it meet you in the quiet moments of your day, not as a new idea, but as an ancient truth rekindled. There is nothing to fix, nothing to prove, nothing to become. Only this moment to allow, only this breath to feel, only this sacred life to embrace, exactly as it is. And that is the essence of a miracle. There comes a moment, unmarked by clocks or calendars, when you no longer chase clarity like a mirage on the horizon. You begin instead to trust in the fog, to walk with open palms into the mystery, no longer needing every answer to unfold before you step forward. The miracle is not in knowing what comes next, it is in knowing that whatever comes, you are carried, not by effort, but by an invisible rhythm that has always known your way. The moon does not question whether it is full enough. It simply shows its face in cycles. So too, you are allowed to wax and wane, to rise and retreat, to feel your fullness and your emptiness without shame. There is a sacred timing to your becoming that cannot be rushed by will or accelerated by fear. You are allowed to honor your own pace, to bloom in seasons that make no sense to the world, to trust that your petals will find the sun in due time. We are taught to seek permanence in a world built on change, yet everything true is fluid emotions, identities, relationships, the body that holds you, and still you endure. Not because you've anchored yourself to certainty, but because you've anchored yourself to presence. You've learned to find stability not in what is unchanging, but in your unchanging willingness to meet each change with love. It is not weakness to feel deeply. It is the sign of a soul still alive. Let your tears baptize the moments that move you. Let your grief speak the names of all you've had to release. Let your joy ring loud in your chest like cathedral bells. You were never meant to flatten your experience to fit into someone else's comfort. You are here to feel it all, and in that fullness of feeling, you become whole. There is an intelligence beyond intellect guiding you. It speaks not through facts, but through a language older than words, through sensations, symbols, synchronicities. It is the way your body leans in or pulls away, the way your breath shortens or softens, the way your heart stirs when truth is near. You don't need more data to know what's real. You need only to become quiet enough to trust the knowing that lives in your bones. The ego will tell you that life is a ladder to climb, each step proving your worth. But the soul sees life not as a ladder, but as a circle, a sacred spiral, always bringing you home. And what is home if not the place within you untouched by success or failure? What is home if not the silent core that never asks you to earn your belonging? You are not climbing toward value. You are circling back to the truth that you never lost it. True transformation is not loud. It does not announce itself with trumpets or demand recognition. It happens in quiet thresholds, in the breath where you choose peace over defense, in the pause before you react, in the decision to meet pain with compassion rather than judgment. It is not always visible from the outside, but it is always felt in the shift from survival to presence. You are not the thoughts that visit you. You are the awareness that welcomes them and lets them go. You are not the waves of anxiety or sorrow. You are the ocean vast enough to hold them without drowning. Every time you return to that knowing, you reclaim your power. Not the kind that controls, but the kind that liberates. The power to be even when the world tempts you to perform. Let yourself be soft where you used to be guarded. Let yourself be curious where you used to judge. Let yourself rest where you used to push. This is not giving up, it is giving in to something more true. It is surrender not to defeat, but to divinity. And in that surrender, your strength is revealed not in resistance, but in your unwavering willingness to remain open. You do not have to be fearless to be free. You only have to stop letting fear make your choices. Courage is not the absence of trembling, it is the decision to move anyway, to trust anyway, to speak anyway. Let your trembling be holy. Let your vulnerability be a portal. Let your openness be the altar on which your false self is laid down and your true self rises, undressed and luminous. And so walk on, not with certainty, but with sincerity. Let your life be your prayer. Let your breath be your offering. Let your footsteps write love letters to the earth beneath you. You are not here to master life. You are here to merge with it, to dissolve into its mystery, to be undone by its beauty. You are not lost, dear one. You are being reshaped by the invisible hands of grace. Let them have you. Let them mold you not into who you think you should be, but into who you already are, when nothing remains but truth. This life, in all its ache and ecstasy, its beauty and bewilderment, is not here to punish you, it is here to polish you. And what emerges from that polish is not a perfect person, but a luminous soul. Not someone who has conquered life, but someone who has finally said yes to it. And that yes is your miracle. There is a quiet liberation that begins when you stop reaching for what is already within your grasp. Not because you've lowered your standards, but because you've lifted the veil. You see that the love you've sought in 1,000 faces lives quietly beneath your own skin. You discover that belonging is not earned by fitting in, it is remembered by standing still in your truth. And in that stillness, you find not just yourself, but the entire universe leaning in to meet you. The wind does not argue with the shape of the mountain. It dances around it. It embraces the form of what is without resistance. So too, you are not here to change your nature to fit a mold. You are here to let your true form be seen, be felt, be known, even if others do not understand you, even if your path curves where theirs is straight. The miracle is not in being understood, it is in being real. Your presence is your power, not your performance, not your accolades, not your ability to convince or impress. Your presence, the way you sit with silence, the way your gaze softens when truth is near, the way your hands tremble and still reach anyway. There is more sacredness in your quiet authenticity than in a lifetime of pretending. Do not be afraid of your own depth. The world may urge you to skim the surface, to stay light, to stay palatable, but the soul has no interest in the shallow. It is here for the plunge, the fall, the dive into the mystery. Let yourself descend into your own depths, not to lose yourself, but to recover what was never gone, to feel the sacred pulse that beats beneath every sorrow and every joy. Even the waiting is holy, the pause between what was and what will be, the space where the seed lies unseen beneath the soil, gathering strength, awaiting spring. We are so quick to rush the unfolding, but there is wisdom in the in-between. There is a ripening of soul that happens in the quiet before the blooming. Trust that. Even if nothing seems to be moving, everything is becoming. You were not meant to numb yourself just to make this life bearable. You were meant to feel it, to let its colors seep into your pores, to let its edges carve you open, to let its warmth and wildness awaken something long forgotten. You are not fragile for feeling. You are powerful for allowing your heart to remain open in a world that often asks you to close. Let forgiveness be your liberation, not your burden. Not because the past was light, but because you no longer need to carry its weight. You forgive not to erase what happened, but to release what has tried to define you. You forgive so your soul can breathe again, unclenched, unshackled, unafraid to love in the aftermath. When you stop trying to prove your worth, you start to embody it. You no longer need to declare your value. It radiates from your being like sunlight from the sky. And in that radiance, others begin to remember their own light. You become not a mirror for approval, but a mirror for remembrance. A sacred presence, reminding others of what is already inside them. You are not the storm. You are the one who can sit inside it and still know peace. You are not the chaos. You are the consciousness that watches it rise and fall without clinging. And in that witnessing, you become the calm the world forgets it needs. The soft gaze that says, I see you, and I still choose love. This life will not always give you what you expect, but it will always give you what you need for your soul's becoming. The people who stay, the ones who leave, the joy that lifts, the grief that carves all of it is an invitation. Not to make sense of the mystery, but to meet it with reverence. And so you walk not in certainty, but in faith. Not faith in some distant reward, but in the sacredness of this moment. The miracle is not out ahead of you, waiting. It is here in the quiet unfolding of your breath, in the way your chest rises without asking for permission, in the way your soul keeps whispering, there is more, and it is already within you. You are not a mistake in motion, you are a mystery in bloom. There is nothing random about your arrival, no accident in the way your presence intersects with time and space. You were spoken into being by a current of love so vast, so precise, that even the stars bowed in silence. You are here not to justify your existence, but to embody its sacredness. To walk as a living testament to the intelligence that shaped galaxies and still found it worthy to breathe life into you. And yet, how often you've been taught to question your own belonging, to reduce your brilliance to something explainable, marketable, acceptable. But the soul was never meant to be explained, it was meant to be experienced. And so the miracle is not in becoming understood by others, but in finally understanding yourself. Seeing yourself not as a fragment, but as a full expression of source energy, walking this earth in skin and story. There is an art to remembering, a slow, holy unfolding in which the fog lifts, not all at once, but in waves. Some days you glimpse the vastness of your being with perfect clarity. Other days the clouds return, but even in those moments of forgetting, the light never leaves. You are not your clarity or your confusion. You are the awareness holding both. You are the space through which forgetting becomes remembering again. Let the earth be your teacher. Watch the trees. They do not cling to their leaves in autumn. They trust the letting go. They trust the bareness. They trust the cold that calls them inward. So too must you learn to surrender, not because you failed, but because there is something truer waiting to rise from the space you make. Every release is a resurrection waiting in silence. The soul is not fed by the applause of others. It is fed by truth, by presence, by the small moments of alignment when your outer life matches your inner knowing. And sometimes those moments go unnoticed by the world, but they do not go unnoticed by life. Every time you choose love over defense, stillness over reaction, authenticity over approval, the fabric of the universe softens around you. You are remembered. You are seen. There is no need to rush your healing. The timeline the world gave you is not divine. Your unfolding is holy even when it's slow, even when it's quiet, even when it feels invisible. The miracle is not in how quickly you arrive, it is in the way you never stop returning to yourself, breath after breath, even when the road vanishes beneath your feet. You are not meant to carry the past like a chain. You are meant to honor it like a teacher and let it rest. You are not meant to drag the future like a burden. You are meant to trust it like a seed planted in the dark. This moment, this exact breath, is where your power lives. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. And the more deeply you sink into now, the more eternity opens at your feet. Do not underestimate the sacred power of your being, the way your silence soothes, the way your presence heals, the way your truth unlocks doorways in others. You are not just a person moving through the world. You are a field of energy, a walking invitation for remembrance. And when you live from that space, everything changes not because you forced it to, but because you allowed yourself to be who you already are. You will not find peace by controlling the storm. You will find peace by remembering that you are not the storm. You are the stillness beneath it. And even when the winds howl and the sky darkens, the stillness remains. It does not flinch, it does not flee, it simply is, and so are you. This life is not something to win. It is something to receive, to bow before, to breathe into. The miracle is not an event. It is a way of seeing, a way of being, a sacred posture of heart that says, even here, even now, there is something holy unfolding. And so you come to the final threshold, not a finish line, not a conclusion, but a quiet doorway opening back into your own heart. There is nothing more to chase now, nothing left to earn, nothing more to prove. Only the gentle awareness that all along you were walking in the presence of something eternal, that even in your forgetfulness, life was remembering you. This is the miracle that in a world of impermanence, your essence endures, that while roles dissolve and identities change, the light within you remains untouched. It is not diminished by time, nor tarnished by pain. It is not a flame that flickers, it is the sun rising each day within the cathedral of your being, no matter the weather outside. You have not failed. You have not fallen behind. You are not broken, and you never were. Every detour was part of the path. Every ache was a prayer in disguise. Every silence was a deeper listening. And now, here you are, not fixed, but revealed. Not improved, but remembered. Not higher, but home. The river of your life no longer needs to prove its destination. It only needs to flow. And in that flowing, you meet grace again and again in a stranger's smile, in the breath of dawn, in the stillness that cradles your sorrow without needing to change it. You find that joy is not elsewhere. It is here, woven into the ordinary, singing softly beneath the noise. Even the questions you once begged the sky to answer no longer burn with urgency. Not because they've been solved, but because you've surrendered to something larger than answers. A presence, a peace, a pulse that says, I may not know where this road leads, but I trust the one who walks it with me. Let your life be an offering, not of perfection, but of presence. Let each moment be your prayer, each step your temple, each breath your return. You do not need to build your worth, you only need to embody it. The truth is, the more you simply are, the more life flows through you without effort. You are not the flame trying to find the fire. You are the fire remembering it was never extinguished. And now, beloved, you see. You see with eyes no longer searching. You feel with a heart no longer defending. You walk with feet no longer racing to arrive. You are here, fully, finally, now. And in this now, all things rest, the striving quiets, the masks fall. The wounds close not because they are forgotten, but because they are held. And what remains is not weakness, but wonder. Not emptiness, but space. Sacred, fertile space for the divine to breathe through you without resistance. This life has not always been easy, but it has always been holy. Every chapter, a verse in the sacred scripture of your being. Every breath, a syllable in the song only your soul can sing. You are not the silence between the miracles. You are the miracle the silence was preparing you for. You need not wait any longer. You need not become anything more. You are the light. You are the way. You are the love you have longed for. This life, this breath, is your cathedral. This presence is your power. This stillness is your song. And this, beloved, is your homecoming. Welcome back to yourself. This life is a miracle, and so are you. There comes a moment, not in the noise of ambition, not in the loud applause of victory, but in the hush between breaths, when the soul leans forward and whispers, you do not need to fight anymore. And in that moment, something ancient inside you begins to tremble, not from fear, but from recognition. A trembling that says, yes, I remember. I was not born for conflict. I was born for love. All the battles you have fought, all the grudges you have held, all the silent wars within your mind, what have they truly won you? Perhaps a sense of control, perhaps the illusion of power, but not peace, not joy, not the soft, sacred presence of love. You see, love and conflict cannot occupy the same space within you. One must yield. And in that yielding, a new way begins not through striving, but through surrender. Surrender is not defeat. It is the holy act of laying down the sword and remembering that you were never at war to begin with. The enemy you were resisting was never truly outside of you. The conflict was always an echo of your own forgetting. Forgetting that you are not separate, not alone, not unloved. Forgetting that your brother's soul is a mirror of your own. And so we begin here. In this remembering, there is a river flowing beneath every hardened thought, every clenched fist, every anxious heartbeat. It is the river of love, soft, unassuming, endlessly patient. It does not force its way through the rocks. It wears them down over time with presence. That river lives within you. It is the stream of divine energy that asks not that you win, but that you yield. Not that you conquer, but that you connect. You were not designed for battle. You were sculpted from stillness, fashioned by love, formed in the silent knowing of the Tao, which teaches not through resistance, but through flow. Lao Tzu said, nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water. Yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it. Let your heart be like water, not to give up, but to give in to the power of softness. When Jesus said, love your enemies, he wasn't offering a command. He was offering a key, a doorway to freedom. For when you love your enemies, they lose their hold on you. They no longer inhabit your mind like ghosts, haunting your peace. You release them not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You deserve the freedom that forgiveness brings. Not just freedom from them, but freedom from the part of you that believed you were not already whole without the fight. Conflict is the voice of the ego, ever defending, ever needing to be right. But love is the voice of the soul, ever inviting, ever accepting, ever still. You do not need to prove anything to return to this voice. You need only to be quiet enough to hear it again. So much of our pain comes from our insistence on being separate from needing to be right, needing to win, needing to stand above or apart. But the soul does not divide. It joins. It weaves connection where the mind sees division. It sees the one behind the many, the shared light behind the different forms. You are not at war with the world. You are at war with the walls you have built inside yourself. And the end of conflict is not when the outside changes. It is when those walls dissolve. When you stop needing others to change for you to feel peace. When you stop needing to explain, to justify, to defend. When you stop guarding your heart and start living from it. This is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. To meet the world not with retaliation, but with recognition. Not with bitterness, but with benevolence. To see in every face, even the ones that have hurt you, the same longing to be seen, to be loved, to be held. To recognize that those who wound are often carrying wounds of their own. That every act of aggression is a cry of the unloved self. You do not heal the world by adding to its fear. You heal the world by being the presence that no longer reacts from fear, that no longer needs to match the darkness of others, because it remembers that light is your essence. And when you bring light into darkness, the darkness does not win. It dissipates. Begin with this moment. Let it be a temple, not a performance, but a presence. Let your breath be the incense. Let your awareness be the altar. And let every thought of judgment, of fear, of separation be placed gently upon that altar and released. Not analyzed, not battled, just released. When you do this, you begin to feel the subtle miracle of being alive, not in the grand achievements, but in the quiet dissolving of conflict. You begin to feel the space between reactions, and in that space you find your true self, not the one shaped by pain, but the one made of peace. That self does not argue. It listens. It does not punish. It understands. It does not close. It opens. Because it knows that to live in opposition is to be imprisoned by your own resistance. And to live in love is to walk freely through the world, no longer needing the armor that once weighed you down. When the mind tells you, they hurt me, I must protect myself, gently ask, is this protection or is this a prison? When the ego says, they must apologize, they must change, ask, am I giving away my peace in waiting? And when the past rises wearing the mask of memory, ask, do I want to relive this story or am I ready to release it? Each time you choose love, you dismantle the story of separation. Each time you forgive, you set down the burden of being the warden of someone else's punishment. Each time you return to presence, you return to power, not the power of domination, but the power of divine alignment. You don't need to solve the whole world. You only need to come home to your own heart. And in doing so, you ripple outward. You become the calm in someone else's storm. You become the presence that allows another to exhale, not by fixing them, but by being fully, unapologetically at peace within yourself. The end of conflict does not mean the end of injustice. It means the beginning of your capacity to respond rather than react, to act from clarity rather than chaos, to see what needs to be done without needing to be someone. This is where love begins, not in sentiment, but in surrender. Let every breath be a soft unraveling of the stories you've told yourself about what love is supposed to be. Love is not possession. It is permission. It is the holy invitation to let another be as they are, even when that means letting go, even when that means not understanding, even when it hurts. And so, beloved soul, I say again, you do not need to fight anymore. The battlefield was never your home. The sword was never your salvation. Lay them down and pick up the stillness, the awareness, the grace. The world will tell you this is foolish, that you must stand your ground, defend your image, fight to be heard. But the soul knows better. The soul knows that true power is not in shouting, it is in shining, not in resisting, but in remembering. You are not here to win the war. You are here to end it, and the end begins within. The end of conflict is not a thunderous event. It is not marked by banners or bells or declarations made to the world. It is quieter than that. It begins the moment you decide to no longer argue with reality. It begins in the instant when your heart sighs in relief, no longer needing to carry the tension of 1,000 unmet expectations. You exhale. And in that breath, the war ends, not outside, but within. You see, peace is not something you earn. It is not awarded to the most deserving. It is not the result of a perfect sequence of actions. Peace is your natural state. It is the original condition of your soul before you were taught to defend, to compare, to brace against life. And to return to peace is not to gain something new. It is to release everything false. There is no conflict without resistance. And resistance is born not from truth, but from the fear of what is. When you believe you are separate, unworthy, or unsafe, you resist what arises. You label it, you judge it, you wish it were different. But when you see clearly, when you remember that life is not against you, but as your resistance dissolves into presence. Presence is the end of conflict, not because it erases pain, but because it meets pain without adding suffering. It meets pain with open arms and says, even this is welcome. Even this has something to teach me. Even this can be loved. Love, you see, is not a fragile flower that wilts under pressure. It is a fierce, eternal flame that burns through all illusion. It does not run from conflict, it transforms it. It does not fear darkness, it illuminates it. And when you choose love over fear, presence over projection, you become that flame. You become the light that no shadow can touch. But to choose love requires courage. Not the courage to conquer, but the courage to soften your gaze, to soften your grip, to soften your story, to look at the parts of yourself you've hidden behind walls and say, you are safe now, you can come home. Because it is not just others you've been in conflict with, it is yourself. The self you judged, the self you tried to fix, the self you silenced when it didn't meet the standards imposed by a world that forgot the sacredness of being. But the soul never forgets. The soul knows that your worth is not conditional. It knows that your beauty is not in your performance. It knows that healing is not a destination, but a return to what has always been whole beneath the masks, beneath the roles, beneath the noise. And so, when you release the inner conflict, when you stop trying to earn what is already yours, you become available to love. Truly available. Not as a concept, not as a fleeting emotion, but as a living force. A force that flows through your presence, through your gaze, through your silence. The end of conflict is not just the absence of fighting, it is the presence of grace. Grace that no longer needs to control. Grace that no longer needs to prove. Grace that trusts in the unfolding of life, even when it does not understand. This trust is not naive. It is not weakness. It is a holy defiance of the fear that has run your life for too long. It is the sacred choice to meet uncertainty with surrender instead of strategy. To meet discomfort with breath instead of armor. To meet others not with suspicion, but with truly seeing them as extensions of the same divine field. In this field, there are no enemies. Only expressions of love remembered or forgotten. Only souls on the same path home. Each taking a different road, each carrying different wounds. And the more you remember this, the less you judge. The less you defend, the less you separate. You begin to live in communion, not competition. You begin to listen, not to respond, but to understand. You begin to speak not to be right, but to be real. And this reality, the one rooted in soul, in presence, in love, is the only one worth returning to. As the veil of conflict thins, you begin to see not just with your eyes, but with the eyes behind your eyes. You begin to perceive with the quiet clarity of the eternal self, the self that was never injured by opinion, never diminished by rejection, never stained by judgment. And in this clarity, something remarkable happens. Forgiveness becomes inevitable, not as a moral achievement, but as a natural consequence of vision restored. You do not need to try to forgive. You only need to see truly, to see the pain behind the attack, the fear behind the cruelty, the illusion behind the harshness. Forgiveness is not a favor you grant another, it is a freedom you grant yourself. It is the dissolving of the rope that tied you to a wound you no longer wish to revisit. And when that rope dissolves, your heart no longer drags the past behind it like a broken wing. You begin to fly, not in the eyes of the world, but in the sacred skies of your own freedom. Every ounce of conflict you've carried has weighed down the wings of your being. Every resentment, every grudge, every silent argument in your mind, these are the chains that bind you to what no longer lives. But what if I told you that the lock was never real, that the key was never lost, that in this very moment, with this very breath, you could release yourself? The mind will protest. It will say, but what they did was wrong. But I was right. But justice demands pain. And yet I ask you, whose pain are you carrying? Whose life are you delaying? Is justice served by staying in suffering, or is it awakened in the freedom to live unburdened? There is a deeper law than retribution. There is a higher justice than punishment. It is the justice of love which restores what was lost, not by demand, but by grace. And this justice begins when you stop keeping score and start keeping present. To be present is to be whole. And when you are whole, no one else's brokenness can define you. When you are rooted in being, no storm of criticism can uproot your peace. When you know who you are not as an idea, but as an experience, you no longer need the world to mirror your worth. You carry that mirror within. And in that mirror, you begin to see others differently. The ones you feared, you now recognize their fear. The ones who wronged you, you now sense their confusion. The ones you clashed with, you now feel their longing for love, for acceptance, for peace. Conflict dissolves not because others change, but because you are no longer looking through the eyes of the ego. The ego looks to win. The soul looks to understand. And understanding is the soil from which compassion grows, not a pitying compassion, but a sacred, silent recognition. I see you, not your behavior, not your story, but the light within you that forgot itself. And when you see like this, the world changes not because it becomes easier, but because you stop making it harder. You no longer add fuel to the fire of fear. You become water again. Cool, soft, patient. You nourish what is real and allow what is false to wither on its own. And from this state, love arises. Not dramatic love, not conditional love, but holy love, the kind that needs no words, the kind that shines from your presence like sunlight, making no effort, asking nothing in return. This love is your essence. Not something you give, not something you receive, but something you are. The end of conflict is not the end of your strength. It is the beginning of your truest power, the power to stand in love when it would be easier to hate, the power to see clearly when the world prefers blindness, the power to walk lightly in a heavy world, not by escaping it, but by entering it fully with your heart open, your spirit awake, and your presence intact. This is the quiet revolution, and you are its beginning. There is a sacred art to no longer needing to be understood. It is the art of the soul that does not speak to be validated but to express, that does not listen to be right but to connect, that does not walk into a room looking to prove anything but simply to radiate the quiet knowing of wholeness. And when you live from this place, you are no longer participating in the performance of life. You are embodying its truth. This embodiment is not loud, it is not showy, it is not wrapped in titles or accomplishments. It is found in the smallest things, the way your eyes soften when you meet a stranger's pain, the way your breath steadies when chaos swirls around you, the way you smile not out of obligation but because your heart is no longer at war with the moment. This is the end of conflict, not when the world grows still, but when your resistance to it does. Not when people finally treat you how you wish, but when your peace no longer depends on how you are treated. Not when life gives you everything you asked for, but when you realize it already gave you everything you truly need, this breath, this awareness, this infinite now. You begin to notice how often the conflict was not in what happened, but in what you believed about what happened. You were not hurt only by the act, but by the meaning you gave it, the story you wrapped around it, the identity you attached to it. But meaning is not fixed, story is not stone. You can rewrite what you once believed was carved into you. You can revise the script not by pretending it never happened, but by no longer letting it define who you are. The true self is not defined by history. It is not bound by memory. It is the eternal witness, the silent seer behind the shifting scenes of your life. And when you begin to rest in that awareness, you touch something so vast, so unnameable, that even your deepest wounds begin to dissolve like fog in morning sunlight. This is what it means to be free, not free from emotion, but free within it, not numb, but open, not invulnerable, but unafraid. You feel fully, not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough to remain open in a world that teaches you to close. Let every sorrow come. Let every shadow rise. Let every ghost of the past knock at your door and welcome them, not as invaders, but as visitors, as messengers, as sacred guests sent to help you remember what part of yourself you've left behind in the cold. And one by one, with each breath of presence, you begin to reclaim those lost parts, not through force, but through forgiveness. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is not excusing. It is not condoning. Forgiveness is remembering who you are beyond the wound. Forgiveness is saying to yourself, I will no longer carry what is not mine to carry. It is the ultimate act of self-liberation, and it is born not from righteousness, but from love. The kind of love that recognizes its own reflection in every face, even the faces of those who could not love you back, even the faces that wounded you from their own place of pain, because that's the truth. People do not hurt others from their wholeness, they hurt from their fractures. They lash out not because they are full of truth, but because they are empty of it. And when you see this, truly see it, you can stop taking it personally. You stop needing an apology to be at peace. You stop needing closure to move forward. You stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to be free. And in that stopping, you begin. You begin to walk this earth as a being of light disguised in human form. You begin to speak not from wounds, but from wisdom. You begin to meet others not with expectation, but with sacred curiosity. Who are you beneath your pain? Who are you beyond your defense? Who are you when you too are free? And just like that, love is born. Again, and again, and again. It was never gone. It was only covered. Covered by hurt, by pride, by fear. But love is like the sun, it doesn't stop shining just because the clouds pass through. And you are that Sunday. You are that radiance. You are that presence behind every storm. This is the great return. Not to who you thought you needed to become, but to who you have always been underneath the armor. When you truly understand that you are not here to win the war, but to end it, you begin to see differently. You begin to breathe differently. You begin to live not as a soldier, but as a sanctuary. And this shift from warrior to witness, from defender to divine observer, is not a retreat from life, but a return to it. You realize that the need to be right has cost you more than you ever gained, that every argument you clung to, every justification you rehearsed, was a subtle way of reinforcing the illusion that you were separate. Separate from them, separate from love, separate from your own soul. But separation is a dream, a passing mist, a trick of the ego. In truth, there is no them. There is only you, wearing different masks, living different stories, dreaming different dreams, and beneath it all, yearning to awaken from the same illusion. This is why the end of conflict is not the end of your power, but the beginning of your radiance. Because when you no longer need to win, you begin to serve. When you no longer need to dominate, you begin to guide. When you no longer need to defend, you begin to heal. And healing does not mean forgetting what happened. It means no longer letting what happened define your response to what is happening now. It means remembering that peace is not a passive state, it is a powerful one. A choice, a discipline, a way of living so rooted in your divine identity that nothing outside of you can steal it. The old you, the one built on wounds, on defense, on control, will tremble as it begins to fall away. Let it. Let the shedding feel like loss if it must, but know it is a sacred loss. You are not losing yourself. You are losing everything that was never you. Every label, every reaction, every role you played to survive. Survival is not living, and you were not born to merely endure. You were born to shine, to love, to expand, to be the open sky, not the storm that passes through it. Conflict teaches you to close, but life calls you to open. And when you answer that call, when you open your arms, your heart, your being, to what is, you meet the present moment without resistance. And the present moment is the only place where God lives, not in your memory, not in your projections, but here, now, in this breath. And in this breath, all is well. Not perfect, but whole. Not finished, but sacred. You begin to trust something deeper than logic. You begin to be led by something quieter than thought. Intuition becomes your compass. Compassion becomes your language. And you no longer see relationships as battlegrounds, but as mirrors, as classrooms, as sacred opportunities to remember who you are and who you are not. Let that remembering become your practice. Let it be the fire that burns away the need to be superior, to be defended, to be adored. Let it be the stillness that dissolves your urgency, your striving, your tension. Let it be the light that exposes your fear, not to shame it, but to love it home. Because the end of conflict is not a destination you reach one day. It is a choice you make in every moment. A choice to turn away from the illusion of separation and toward the eternal truth of connection. You are not the pain that was done to you. You are not the defense you learned to build. You are not the story you told to survive. You are the soul that is learning, breath by breath, to let it all go. To release the narrative, to return to the presence, to become again what you have never stopped being, a vessel of love. You have walked through the valley of conflict. You have felt the burn of injustice, the sting of misunderstanding, the ache of needing to be heard. And still, you are here, not hardened, not broken, but softened into presence, widened into wisdom, expanded into love. And now, at the edge of all you once fought to hold, you are asked one final question, not by the world, but by your soul. Are you willing to live unguarded? Not foolishly, not recklessly, but unguarded in the way that flowers are unguarded when they bloom toward the Sunday, in the way that rivers are unguarded as they empty themselves into the ocean, in the way that love is unguarded when it gives without condition, not because it is naive, but because it knows it cannot run out. To live unguarded is to finally trust the current of your own life, to no longer dam the river of emotion or resist the tides of change or fight the flow of what is. It is to step back from the threshold of fear and say, I am done defending what no longer needs protection. I am done armoring a heart that was made to feel. I am done building walls around a soul that was meant to shine. And when you do this, when you choose the path of radical openness, the world does not grow safer. It grows sacred. Every encounter becomes holy. Every face becomes divine. Every wound becomes a window through which grace enters. You begin to see that what you feared was never the other. It was the reflection of your own unhealed self in the mirror of relationship. But now, you no longer fear what you see. You embrace it. You bless it. You integrate it. Because you finally understand nothing outside of you has power unless you give it power. You are the stillness in the storm. You are the light in the confusion. You are the love that never left. And so you begin to walk the world not with a clenched fist, but with open hands. Not to control, but to offer. Not to demand, but to give. You become a presence so rooted in your being that even in chaos, you are calm. Even in rejection, you are whole. Even in loss, you are complete. This is what it means to be truly free. Not freedom as the ego defines it, a life without challenge, but freedom as the soul knows it, the capacity to remain in love no matter what. And this, beloved one, is the beginning of heaven on earth. Not a place you go to, a place you create with every surrendered breath, with every gentle word, with every silent choice to choose connection over control. The end of conflict is not a finish line. It is a starting point, the start of love, real love, the kind that doesn't rush into fix but sits still to feel, the kind that doesn't say you must become but whispers you already are, the kind that looks at a world on fire and says, I will be the water. Be that water, be that stillness, be that love. Let your life be the quiet revolution that shows others there is another way, a softer way, a truer way, a way where conflict ends and communion begins. You are not here to change the world by force. You are here to remember the world by heart. And when you do, when you live from that remembrance, you become the very thing the world has been aching for, a being who has made peace with life, a being who has made peace with themselves. And so we arrive not at the end, but at the return to what was always true, always whole, always present. The end of conflict is the start of love, and love is where you belong.